Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is your newest episode of Yarn. Marigold, I always forget, is it Marigold or... Yeah, it is the Marigold tea by Winter Knits. So, I talked a lot about this in my last episode. I really won't go in too much detail. I am super glad that it's done. My only complaint is that it is not the most easy to wear garment, in the sense that well, there's two things that one thing people probably may feel a certain way about, and that is the weight of this garment. It is a little heavy and it's extremely drapey, and I personally don't mind. Also, I think I'm wearing this inside out. I am. Okay, I don't mind my garments having a little bit of weight to them, but it does mean that I have to be a little more picky about when I wear this. And I am hoping that come autumn or winter, when our weather cools down, I will have more opportunities to wear this. It just isn't fully practical for summer here in the Gulf Coast because of the longish length of the sleeves. And maybe the materials I chose are not maybe the best combination with the size, but I am looking forward to having future opportunities to wear it. I just haven't had those yet. So Magnolia tea, it is done. I'm happy about it. If you want to hear more details about the yarn, the knitting experience, the construction, it is a very unique construction. Go ahead and watch my last video. So this is the first finished object for this episode. The next are kind of a matched set or a pair, even though they, in my mind, they are individual items. So the first one is my Cognac sweater. I had started this last month and had talked about it a little bit. I think I was about here when we spoke last. So I knit the size 4, and originally I was going for a oversized sweater. I really like the oversized sweater vests. I've seen a lot of people making the tulip loop sweater vest is kind of the thing that comes to mind when I think of these really neat, very chic, oversized vests. However, I just chose the wrong pattern for that.
Editing Rachel here. I just wanted to say that I, for whatever reason, did not pay close enough attention to the design features of the Cognac. And so when I purchased it, I thought you knit basically a vest style and then do the set-in sleeves. That is not the case, and that's obviously on me for not looking closely enough, but it is a simultaneous set-in sleeve. So as you're shaping the shoulder and v-neck, you're also making the sleeve portion. So that is why my sweater didn't quite turn out the way I had planned.
Look, so thinking I would be making something oversized, I purchased the Cognac pattern and then sized up to size 4 and knit that. And by the time I got down to like my waist, or I guess rib cage is kind of where this portion is, I realized this is going to be massive, and I did want it to come in, like that was kind of part of the plan all along. But when I got down to this point, I was thinking, man, this is just way bigger than I wanted it to be, and I knew that the I-cord would bring it in, but not as much as I wanted it to. So I did this thing where I kind of folded the stitches in half and then knit them together. And so I have like a faux tuck here, and it is a little messy looking, but nobody's looking that close at your garments, especially not like on the sides there. So that's what I did to rectify my choice, my poor choice in sizing. And I keep telling myself that I can always tear this whole thing out and reknit it if I want to, but I am glad that it is a finished object. I have thrown this on a few times in the evenings. We will crank our AC so that it cools our house more than what I'm comfortable with, and I am, running around in shorts and tank tops because I'm chasing a toddler around and doing housework and that kind of thing. However, my husband works outside, and outside in the middle of summer in the Gulf Coast of Texas is miserable. So I want our home to be cool and comfortable for when he comes home. So usually that means that I'm a little chilled, especially because in the afternoons I have a few minutes to sit still, and just that's when my body temperature kind of gets a little lower. And so I like to have this, even though it's not exactly what I had wanted. It's great to throw on over a tank top. I see myself maybe come fall or even in spring, throwing this on over like a spaghetti strap dress for when I'm inside, and then being able to take it off when I get too warm or if I'm going outside. So this one's mine. But the thing that I was really interested in with that project is I wanted to see if I could take an adult pattern and grade it down to a child size. And I am a newer knitter. I say new, I've been knitting for 2 years, but I also have a daughter, so running around after her doesn't mean that I get to like spend as much time knitting as I want to. And there's people who've been knitting for decades, so I'm newer. Anyway, I just thought it would be cool to see if I could figure out how to make this pattern fit a toddler. So I've got this little piece of linen hanging out the bottom, but I took her measurements and figured out how to make this work for her. I do think I did maybe too much short rows in the back here because it does sit kind of high on her neck, but I just love that she can wear it. And again, this is one of those things that is nice to be able to toss on her if she's wearing something short sleeve and we go into church and we need a long sleeve option. So, or not long sleeve, but like a layering piece to make it slightly warmer for her. So anyway, this is the mini me Cognac, self-drafted. And yeah, I really enjoyed making it. I do think I'm going to want to knit more things for my daughter as time goes, because something this tiny went by so fast, and it's really satisfying to see her wear something that I've made. She also picked the pink finish, and so I thought it would be fun to, do something similar, but not quite. So I ordered purple and pink and a blue and gave her the choice of which one she wanted, and this is what she chose. She wanted the pink one. I think I mentioned this a little bit in my previous episode, but just know that when you are working, if you are working on a more open gauge and you are using a fingering weight yarn, traditionally sweaters like the Cognac, the Lento, I think the Ranunculus, is it the California sweaters? These all open gauge items need to be held with something to help fill in the look of the stitch, but more importantly to reinforce the stitches so that you do not stretch them or snag them. I learned this the hard way when I made my Lento a year ago now. I did not know what I did not know. I was unconsciously incompetent. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I've gotten a lot of wear out of that Lento. I just toss it on in the summer when the house is too cold, in the winter when I want a little snuggle layer, whatever. But I wear this watch all the time, and this watch has snagged the sleeves. I couldn't tell you how many times I've torn the yarn and had to make it work to fix it. But that taught me that I need to, when I'm working on these open gauges, still have something to reinforce those stitches. Otherwise, I will destroy my garments. And that's a lot of hard work to row in just by putting on a sweater. So that is why I held this with a linen. So this is fingering weight yarn from Hobby Lobby, and I just added a little strand of linen. You can kind of see it. It's white. It is slightly scratchy if you're feeling it, but when I'm wearing it, I don't notice it all. And I do think this will add to the longevity of the sweater. Hey, Miha, what's up? Are you driving your babies around? Pearl's here. Hi. So before she takes her baby back, I think I should show you guys one of the other finished objects. So this one actually I've done later. Hang on, can I show the camera, please? Let me show this real quick and then you can have baby. I needed a palette cleanser. Hang on. And so I self-drafted this pattern, this dress, so that her baby wasn't running around naked. You can have her back now. And that baby doll is a Cabbage Patch doll. If you guys are old enough to know, you know. Unfortunately, neither one has clothing. And so since Pearl has started to want to take her baby places, I thought it would be a good idea to make some clothes for her. So that little dress was just made out of scrap yarn in a period of a few days. Thank you. And I do intend to use the Knitted Animal Friends pattern to make some pants for her, and also some bloomers so that Pearl has some more outfits for her baby. So finished object number 4 doesn't really count, but the fourth official finished object since last month is one that I both cast on and finished. in the month of June rather. So I started it at the beginning of June, cast it off around June 18th, 16th, somewhere around there. And that is my Hathor tea. Yes, my girl. Okay. I'll tell you more about Hathor later. Let's finish talking about the Hathor tea. This is by Aegyoknit, and I have seen a few videos casting shade on this designer. I only have this one pattern, and I have mixed feelings about it. So I don't have any issues with people admiring another culture. You have no choice in where you were born or what your culture is. So I understand being interested in or admiring a culture that is not your own native culture. And so I don't have an issue with that aspect of the hate I've seen about Aegyoknit. My complaint is the pattern itself. So this pattern, I think it cost me 50 Danish krona, which the conversion rate is about 9.50 at the time I purchased. And I think for a pattern like that, you would expect it to be free of errors, understandable, and easy to follow. And I have followed several written patterns and different lace patterns, different charts, but I am by no means an expert in that. And I found one of the charts, there's two charts in the pattern, one of the charts was useful, the other one was completely useless. And when I printed the one chart that I thought I would use and need, the printed version was just completely useless. So waste of paper, sorry trees. And there were kind of two types of comments that I saw the most. There was the type that was complaining about the errors, like I'm doing now. And then there was the type that the person making the object was an experienced enough knitter that they really didn't need the pattern for very much, maybe for stitch counts and for the actual like shape of the lace, and that was it. And those people really liked this pattern, and so I think that would be the way that I would review this as well, is if you are adventurous and experienced enough to tweak things and figure it out kind of on your own with no hand holding, then it's a great thing. It's a great design. But I do think that the pattern itself was written really poorly. But let's talk about the things I liked about it, because there were plenty of those too. First of all, this is made out of Hobby Lobby's I Love This Cotton, and I had about a half of a skein left from the Busy book I had made for Pearl, and I didn't really have any plans for it. It just kind of went back into my cotton stash. I don't know that I would have picked these colors if I was gonna be like, yes, I am making a garment, these are the colors I'm picking. Like, I don't have any problems with them, and I honestly do think that it looks good on me, but I wouldn't have gone out of my way to get them. So I wasn't sure what I was gonna do with that half a skein. Then my mom texted me, she was at a Goodwill, and she had picked up a 3-pack, and the 3-pack was $3.50 for 3 of them. Normally this yarn, not on sale, costs $3.99. If you're in the know about shopping at Hobby Lobby, you know that you never ever pay full price for their yarn, because they run a 30% off sale every other week. And so nothing in my life is so urgent that I need to go pay full price for Hobby Lobby yarn. So that being said, I had purchased my original skein with the 30% off. My mom had brought into my stash. She didn't charge me anything, but she'd given me this. It only cost her $3.50. So this top, including the pattern, cost me, if you factor in what my mom spent on the yarn, $6, let's call it, and then $9 for the pattern. So $15 for this top, plus the man hours. I'm not mad about that. Like, that's a good deal. I did try to knit this pattern to use up as much yarn as possible, and I had a small ball of yarn left. So really satisfied about that. The other thing is I think it looks really good on me. Something I did like that the designer did was she said to do half twisted rib. I think mine is full twisted. I don't know for sure, but I think that's what I did. So, and I also converted it. I don't think the designer calls for 2x2, but I wanted to do 2x2. And then I just tinkered around with a Italian bind off. I had not really done an Italian bind off before. Actually, I think it's considered a tubular bind off. And this top actually does call for it, but I don't know how clear that it is. And I also don't know Pearl's here to help. I don't know, hi, how obvious it is that this is done that way, but I thought I would play. Hey, go play with your toys, please. Mommy's talking. Go play with your toys. We'll see how much longer we get before another visitor comes. Anyway, did the tubular Italian bind off. I think it's tubular because I did do double knitting, and I rearranged my stitches. I found a couple different tutorials online, and I think it looks okay. Like, it's not maybe my best work, but I also do think cotton is not the most forgiving when it comes to this kind of thing. So I think that, you know, not bad. Something interesting I did on the bottom hem is I did an extra round of slip stitches compared to what all of the tutorials I've seen. So usually it calls for 2 setup rounds and then you do your sew and bind off portion. I did 3, and I do think that looks better on the hem, but it was just something I was playing with. This was a low stakes project because the yarn was basically free. It was in stash already and or gifted. But yeah, as far as this item goes, I've worn this maybe 2 or 3 times. It is a worsted weight yarn and it is fully cotton. So I did expect that it would stretch a little bit. It has not stretched much. And I wet blocked it, fully soaked it, and then spread it out, let it dry. The one complaint that I did have when wearing it was that it really did seem to leave a lot of lint on my sports bra after wearing it. But other than that, the garment itself wears great. I just maybe wouldn't recommend the pattern if you're not willing to figure things out on your own. But I think this might be my favorite thing I've knit in the past 6 months, probably, because it just has turned out so cool. It's also not super precious to me because of everything I've said already, and so I have just worn it with no concern that I'm running around with a toddler that might get it dirty. And because of the openness of the lace portion, despite the fact that this is a worsted weight, yes, my girl, do you want to look at this book? Look. So despite the fact that this is a number 4 worsted weight yarn, the openness helps compensate for that, and I do like the weight of this garment on my body. I do think I would have, you know, if Rachel from the future could have gone back and talked to Rachel from the past, I would have done a little bit more of the stockinette before I went into the ribbing. Bless you, just because I did end up having a little bit of yarn left over, and I probably could have gotten away with 1 or 2 more rounds of the lace. But that's the only thing I would say about this that I would change if I could go back in time. So not gonna tear it out. It's good enough as it is. Maybe I'll include some pictures of me wearing this, but I love that I have this now, and I'm glad that I made it. And I could see myself making it again, but maybe not in cotton, just because cotton's so hard on your hands. So that's all I've got to say. I have a little busy bud over here, so her and I are gonna go play, and I will talk to you later about my WIPS. Our guest star is now having nap time, so hopefully no more interruptions. We will just breeze right on through our WIPS. The whip that's probably been on the needles / hooks the longest is actually my LUCCA Hat. And I shared a little bit about this last time, how the yarn or material is Rafa yarn. It's a little challenging to work with, but I was looking at it the other day and realizing like I've made no progress since the last video, and I didn't like that. Also, we are so close to done on this one that if I can just suck it up and do a few rounds every other day or so, a few rounds is dramatic. If I can do half a round every other day, I could get this finished before July. So we're here at the end of June, and I did actually manage to add a few more rounds since I filmed last, but not a lot. I'm wearing flowers today in my hair, so I don't even know if you'll be able to see this well. I just did an increasing round, so I've got like a lot of wave going on in this. And let me just take these pins out so you can really see how this fits. Oh my gosh. Okay, that was terrible. So
yeah, it's very wavy at the moment, but I think I'm probably going to do 2 more full rounds and then call it good. And that should give me pretty close to what the pattern calls for. And this will definitely be more beach hat than fedora like it was. So that's good. I'm happy with that. Let's move this to the back. So yeah, I was looking a lot more mysterious and private detective vibes in my last video pictures that I had included. And now we're looking a little more beachy, and I found this ribbon, which I probably need to steam it, but I found this ribbon in my stash of like crafting supplies, and I thought, okay, this is an option for whenever the project is done. So I may do this. I also have like a peacock green that I could maybe do like a twist or a braid or something around the bottom. So I'm not really decided, but I do like the kind of low contrast that this gives for my hat. So I'm kind of thinking I'll include this, and I might do changing out the ribbons just depending on how I'm feeling, but that's kind of where we're looking right now. Maybe I'd mentioned before that I don't think I did. I started making this hat with I want to say it was like maybe 3 millimeter. It's probably what I started with. And then that was on gauge. So I was going and going, but when I was trying it on, I was thinking, wow, this is way too small. It's not gonna fit. And so you can maybe even see there's like a dramatic change here from like this. Yeah, this is probably where you can see the most. So this is round. I did an increase round, but then I also went up to a 3.5, and that helped a lot with my thought on how this was gonna fit. I will say I have a lot of crochet hooks. I have some beautiful furls crochet hooks. I think those are totally worth the money. Start with the size that you use the most, and make sure that when you are using those that you don't have any lotion on your hands are completely clean, because your lotion or the natural oils from your hands can tarnish or wear off that coating. But those are wonderful hooks. However, they are very expensive, and this is a very rough material, and those hooks have a polish to them that makes them so nice to use. They're very slippery, very slick, and so I was worried that by using something rough on a very slick surface that I would damage the finish or coating on it and then ultimately ruin my crochet hook. I also have some crochet hooks that have just like the plain rubber grip, and let me actually show you what I'm talking about. I've got one sitting here. So I also own the style that are just the rubber ergonomic, but I was noticing when I was first making the hat, I had used these in an effort to save my furls for my nicer projects, and I was basically having this metal portion pull out from the rubber, and so I thought, yeah, that's not tenable. So I went and picked up this at Hobby Lobby, and it is very comfortable to use. It's not super fancy or anything. It does. But this worked way better, and I was enjoying it way more. And I think I probably forgot to mention this about the Hathor tee, but with that top, I was, during the ribbing and bind off, I was having a lot of wrist pain and discomfort, and realized I was on too short of a cable, and so I switched cables, and then I started doing magic loop, and instantly that improved my knitting experience. Same thing with these crochet hooks. So I do think that it is very important to have the right tool for the job that you're trying to do, whether that needs to be shorties for socks or DPNs or whatever you are doing. If you are experiencing discomfort or issues with your tools, consider changing and see if that improves your making process. I know Jackie is mentioned this one of her recent videos, and it was just a good reminder. So if you need to hear this, this is your reminder. If you're not having a lot of fun with the project that you're using or working on right now, look at your tools, look at your techniques, and maybe by doing something a little different, you can improve your experience, because this hobby is meant to be fun, and working with the wrong tools can turn something that's fun into something that's not enjoyable. So that's pretty much all I've got to say about the LUCCA hat. Hopefully it'll be done by next month, but until then, I'm gonna try to get a round knocked out every like 2-3 days. And Pearl has decided she doesn't want a nap, so I'm gonna go check on her real quick. That was Pearl. She's okay.
She just doesn't want a nap. I think she can hear me talking. So hopefully you can hear me still. And also, she can't hear me. Our house is not that big. And I think that she can hear me talking to myself over here. So my apologies. But the next WIP is Greta Hen. I think I talked about her a little bit last time I maybe had this much done. And I must have given away the red yarn that I had owned in this line. And I thought, okay, well, I won't do the comb until later. Maybe my sister-in-law has some in her yarn stash, or I might come across a scrap that would be enough to make the comb for the head, because I think the portion that I did have of that yarn was given away when I was teaching somebody how to crochet. So I wasn't too worried about that, but I got to the point where I was running out of this yarn, and this was all I had left of the ball of yarn or hank of yarn I used also in that pillow. I've used this yarn in a lot of others because this is a really great color. It's called Linen. It is Hobby Lobby's acrylic yarn. There's nothing special about it except for one, their dye lots within this brand are pretty true. Like, I've ran out of a blanket mid-row, ran out of this yarn mid-row, and had to go buy a completely different yarn lot, and there's no difference. And in a blanket it would have been extremely obvious. And so yeah, I really love this color because it does seem to pair super well with a lot of other things, and it's neutral without being white. So this is their color Linen, and I'm just gonna finish up Greta Hen's body. Because the yarn was 30% off this week at Hobby Lobby, I did also just pick up another skein of this color. This is the Terracotta, which I wasn't 100% sure that this was the right color. There was a spot where they had some reds that I thought might have been the color I previously owned that was completely empty. And it's one of those things where, like, if nothing's there, then how do you know what was supposed to be there? But then I went over to the brown section and this was over there, and I was like, I think this is it. And sure enough, I brought it home and matched it up with some other WIPs that I had with this yarn, and they're hibernating WIPs, but I'm working on a fox, and this was the color I'd used for the fox fur. So yeah, I'm gonna make her comb out of this color, and then I think I probably won't use very much of this hank for to finish off Greta Hen, even though I still have her body and wings to do. So I will be making in future more pillow covers, not necessarily that same pattern, but a similar idea where I'm pairing this white with some other vibrant colors to kind of bring this room together a little better. So excited that I have more of this, because that means that I can finish up Greta Hen. This will make it nice. I'll probably get to a point where I finish the body and I want to break from big portions, and so I can just do the comb and it'll look way more complete at that stage. So yeah, that's this stuff. And if you don't remember, Greta Hen is from Animal Friends with Pika Pal 3. These are such really sweet characters, and each one has a really adorable little backstory. So like, Greta Hen's backstory is as all members of her family, Greta learned to crochet and knitting and embroidery when she was only a little chick. And when she got bored of all that, she felt it was past time for, and then she got bored of all that. She felt it was a pastime for old hens, and she was anything but an old hen. Years passed, Greta pursued an art career, but couldn't find her place in the world until one day she saw an art installation made from yarn. All the skills she was taught in one gigantic piece of art that blew her away. Now, Greta happily confirms the crafter stereotype. She loves period dramas, her cup of tea, chatting with friends, and of course, stocking the biggest yarn stash you could possibly imagine. Since she is a yarn artist, she has a very reasonable excuse. But it is a lot of yarn. Don't tell your friends because they probably think you're insane. Lot of yarn, which so relatable. My mom has chickens, so when I showed my husband, he was like, wait, is this for Pearl or for your mom? Verdict's still out. I'm pretty sure it's for Pearl, but if she's not interested, I might gift it to my mom. So anyway, that is WIP number 2. WIP number 3. Sometimes my knitting answers a need that I have. And one of the needs that I had noticed recently is, it's kind of weird, but on the nights I wash my hair, I am cold all night long because my hair is still a little damp. When I go to bed, I have a lot of hair. And so I'll wear socks to bed. And then of course, like in the winter, I do obviously need something to keep me warmer than normal, like compared to the summer. So I just wanted something that would be a little more cozy and comfy at bedtime. But pajama pants are uncomfortable for me to have under the blankets, and my pajama shorts that I have are all super thin. Most of them are designed for summertime, or they're boxer shorts, which are also not very warm. So I decided I would make myself a pair of knitted shorts, and I looked at a couple different short patterns and ultimately went with Jessie Made Designs the Flutterbett shorts. And one of the yarns that she recommends is the Knit Picks Gloss. So I went with this beautiful teal color, and I bought 3 hanks, and this is what I've got from hank number 2. The third one's not wound up yet. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna need it, but I am not worrying about winding it up until I'm actually to the point that I need it. But these are my shorts so far. So I tried them on for my husband the other night, and he was like, you should just end them right there. But I'm making the size 4, and I want these to be very loose and flowy, very comfortable and cozy, and hopefully when I am pregnant again, if I get pregnant again, I will be able to wear these even then. And that is one of the problems about making pants, is that depending on how your body changes, you may not always fit the pants that you made. So given how much time is invested in knitting pants, I wanted them to be something I could wear for a long time. So the pattern does call for only this I-cord. However, I didn't really think that that would be enough and or the most comfortable, and so I also added elastic. So the I-cord is really more for the looks of the thing, and the elastic is more for the functionality. Something about this pattern that I have done differently, I'm making the size 4, but I've got a little bit of a booty, and I have previously, when I first started this project, was watching a lot of videos where YouTubers were talking about adding short rows. So I thought, yeah, I want to add short rows. This pattern doesn't call for short rows. It's just basically like knitted tube and then split for your legs, and then some other details that I'm not going to give away. So I added 3 back and forth rows up on the top of the shorts when I first started, and I don't even know that you would even be able to see, but I just kind of made them up. And there's one of my turns right there. I didn't do a very good job, but yeah. And when I was trying them on, I was so happy that I added those. But I was realizing once I got down to the bottom of my hips, buttocks area, sitting pillows, as I've heard them referred to, I was realizing like one more set of short rows wouldn't be amiss. So that's what I did. Just right down here at the bottom, I basically did the math of how many stitches I had on here, divided that into quarters, and then when I got to the middle of the back, I counted out a quarter this way, turned, and then worked back past the middle marker by a quarter, and then turned, and then just completed my rounds. So all of my cats are making cameos today. Anyway, so that's these. They're getting so close to being done. From this stitch marker here, let me see if I can shift that. Yeah, so from the stitch marker here, I determined I probably needed like 2 inches total, or about 4 centimeters, I think. So that's about what I've got. I've got probably 2 there, and so I just need 2 more, and then I'll split for the legs, and this bad boy will be done. Something I think is kind of funny about this pattern is, you know, excited to split for the legs, but then almost as soon as you do, you massively increase your stitches, and so that relief of suddenly having way fewer stitches is extremely short-lived from what I was reading on the pattern. So not complaining, just saying that like this feels like it's almost done and that it's gonna breeze by, but I don't think that that's actually true. So anyway, can't wait to have these. I think the colors are super cool, and I think I bought 3 of the teal color, I don't remember what that's called, and then I bought 3 of this marsala, and I haven't used very much of the marsala, so my original plan was to make kind of like a matching set, and my hope is that I have enough of this teal to make the top in mostly marsala, and then do some kind of trim or edge detail in the teal to like kind of match and be opposite of my shorts. So very excited that this is in the home stretch. I am mostly working on this now. I've learned that knitting monogamously is the best way to get things done fast. Imagine what a novel concept. But so this is my primary focus. However, it is a little boring. For a while I was only like taking it to church with me, but I realized when I finished my Hathor tea, I was like, wow, that went by so fast. Maybe if I just focus on one project at a time, I'll finish them faster. So that's kind of, this has come out to be more at home knitting as well than just like once a week at church. So that's WIP number 3. My last one, I cast on around the same time as my Hathor tea, and there's kind of a whole story to this. Hang on. So I do watch a lot of knitting YouTube, and I have seen a lot of makers use Cascade 220, and I have been very interested in trying this. There's not many local yarn shops super near me, but the ones that I've been to, they don't carry this yarn, and so I've not had the experience of feeling it myself. But last Thanksgiving, when my uncle was in town, he lives in France, and I noticed that he had a sweater that was looking kind of ratty, and he's one of those people that like I don't necessarily know what to get him whenever I think about getting him something, and because he doesn't live local, it's not like we're celebrating birthdays with him or any of that stuff. So I thought, okay, maybe I can knit him something, and I found a pattern that I thought would be kind of his style, and he's got preferences on colors and things like that, and so anyway, he kind of like told me, okay, I like this style of garment, it's gonna be a jacket, and I picked this pattern because it's designed to be steeked, and it's got some color work on, but like not super difficult looking color work, and at the time I'd never done any, so I was like, okay, this would be a good pattern for us to use. But he basically X'd out most of the color work, and he was like, just like a stripe of contrast color would be good. So I sent him the link to WIPS and asked him to pick out colors within a particular line of Cascade yarn that would fit for the pattern that I'm gonna make him. And you know, I said, tell me what you want for your primary color, tell me what you want for your secondary color. He picked them, he let me know, and then ever since then WIPS has not had those yarns in stock in the right quantities for like the last 6 months, and I am going on WIPS every couple of weeks just to check to see if they've come in stock, if they have the right quantities in both of these yarns, because I don't want to order twice, because one of the colors I only needed like 2 balls of, and the other one I needed way more. And so while I'm on there, back in May, I see that they are doing their like annual sale, or I think that's what it is. Pearl does not want a nap. She's okay in her room, but I'm just surprised that she's still awake. She's usually a really good napper, and she woke up early today. So anyway, yeah, I saw that they were doing a sale, and I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to get his yarn on this sale because they don't have it, but they had some other colors in the Aran weight yarn, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna get some of this yarn for me because I really want to try it, and it would be a good preview of how my uncle's is gonna turn out. I'd heard great stuff from other YouTubers about how soft this yarn is, how next to skin comfortable it is, and I was excited. So I'm looking at my uncle's yarn is going to be a worsted weight, and right next to it is an Aran weight, and the Aran weight was the one that was on sale, and I found this really cool color. I think it's called Hellebore, and I thought, okay, it's basically the same, just slightly heavier. It'll work for the project I have in mind, so I'm gonna order it and get a preview of what my uncle's yarn is gonna feel like. So I order it, it arrives, and I'm reading the tags, and the tags say 100% Peruvian Highland wool, which is not what I'd heard about this Cascade 220. I thought Cascade 220, all of it would be the same. I thought it was all superwash merino. No, that's not the case. So the Aran weight is Peruvian Highland wool. The worsted weight is that merino. So my uncle's sweater, which I finally did find the right quantities and get that ordered, will be fine. It will be soft. It will be wonderful. Mine is a little scratchy, and I'm thinking it's gonna be okay because I've tried this on a couple of times and it's fine. But I was a little taken aback and a little surprised, especially because when you're going back and forth like that, I'm not always scrolling down to read the description. I thought they were the same. I didn't think I needed to read the description. I just checked yardage and made sure I had the correct amount, picked a color I liked, made sure it was in stock for what I wanted to make, and ordered. I do most of my online shopping on my cell phone, I think, like a lot of people my age. And so it just didn't even register that I might be ordering a completely different sheep breed. So yeah, what I got in the mail was Peruvian Highlander wool. I think Peruvian Highland wool? Yeah. But anyway, that's enough complaining. This is my last work in progress. This is a sea sweater. The knitting page did a pattern roundup a couple months back, and this was one of the ones that she included. And disregard this part. This is going to be woven in later. But it is a ultra high neck long sleeve sweater done in broken rib. This is a free pattern, which I was very surprised by. I also thought it was extremely interesting, having just come off making the Hathor sweater, which is a paid pattern, and how terribly written it is. The formatting is mediocre. The aesthetic on the pattern is minimal, and I paid money for that pattern. Meanwhile, the sea sweater, which my work is not even doing it justice, it is a stunning design. I'll include a picture here. The pattern design is beautiful. It's well written. The aesthetic of like the layout and everything is like top notch, I think. And I felt that the instructions on this were extremely clear. So I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition of a free pattern versus a paid pattern, and that it's not true that you get what you pay for all the time. So this is my sea sweater. It is in Hellebore, which to me is like a very dusty mauve lavender kind of a color. Not mad about it, just not 100% what I thought I was getting when I ordered it. So we'll see how the turtleneck works out, because as I've mentioned before, I live in Texas, in the Gulf Coast. We don't get that much cold weather. But I am thrilled that when we do have cold weather, I will have something to wear for it. So anyway, this is going, but it's not going super fast because, like I had said, I'm trying to knit monogamously on my shorts. I will say, last night I did switch when the shorts were blocking, because I thought I would do a mid-project block. I did knit a few rounds on this, and I switched. So this is knit on a US 9 or 5.5 millimeter cable. I switched over to my larger cable, the 30-inch one, and the comfort of knitting has massively increased, and it's just wild that only a few inches will change the feel of a project. So as I mentioned before, if you are noticing any kind of fatigue in your arms, wrists, or hands, maybe try changing your cable length and see if that does it for you. I know some of the summer yarns are super popular right now, and if you're knitting with those, try using a wooden or a bamboo type needle. Those may serve you a little bit better than something like this, which is stainless steel. So I think I've yammered on enough about these, and I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me. My daughter's still awake, so I'm gonna go check on her. Maybe we'll play for another hour before she naps, and then we'll check in next month. So have fun with your knitting or your crochet or whatever it is that you're making or doing. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.